Dead Demons Dededede Destruction is the most slept on anime of the year so far. I think the series originally airing as 2 separate movies in Japan and then immediately being released as a weekly 18-episode series caused a lot of confusion with people on how this release structure was going to work, and I think it also affected the marketing of the series as well. The show also didn't really fit into the traditional seasonal format as well. Being 18 episodes long, it started in the spring season and continued through to the end of the summer season. So I can see where people may have gotten confused, or may have gotten lost in the shuffle. It came out at a time where a lot of people aren't looking to start new anime. A lot of the actual obsessed people aren't. And I don't think it was marketed that well for a lot of people to just stumble upon it. At least it wasn't really marketed well to me, and I was someone who was actually pretty interested in checking this series out because it looks pretty weird and it's got a semi-post-apocalypse kind of sci-fi setting that I thought was really interesting, and the art style is very unique. This is also based on a manga by Inio Asano, who I've heard a lot about from his previous series Goodnight Poon Poon, having a lot of hype around it, even though I never really had the chance to check out the manga for myself. I didn't even really realize that it was all coming out until the final episode had already been released. And it's pretty easy to direct a lot of that blame on the company that put this all out, which was Crunchyroll. This is actually an original net animation by Crunchyroll. Instead of a traditional anime series that airs on TV in Japan and gets licensed by Crunchyroll to put onto their platform, this series was actually produced by them directly. In the same way that Netflix has a whole slew of anime that they've been involved in producing and putting directly onto their platform. But I want to move on here and get to what the series is really about and why I think you should watch it. And I know you should watch it because not a lot of people have seen this anime. If you're not familiar, there's a website called Anime Trending, which a lot of people use to rank anime for the season, so you can keep an eye on what the general community is really watching. Now, there's a lot of things that would skew results like this, so don't take it as gospel, but it's a good indicator of what people are generally interested in and generally watching throughout the season. For the end of the summer season, you have a lot of anime that I was checking out, like Makine, Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian, Wistoria, The Elusive Samurai, Shoshiman, How to Become Ordinary. All these anime I watched through the season, and especially anime like Shoshiman, I thought were really interesting, and I'm glad that people were giving it that attention. Now, when we talk about Dead Demons, though, that's all the way down at 24, and that's 10 spots up from where it was in the previous week. 34! That's frankly insane, and for an anime like this to be that far down the ranking, something terrible had to have happened, and I think a lot of it is based on that marketing. Marketing aside though, this series follows 2 high school seniors, Kodore Koyama and Oran Nakagawa. These 2 teenagers have been childhood friends for about as long as they can remember, and they both live in the city Tokyo 3 years after a catastrophic event. You see, on August 31st, 3 years prior, a giant spaceship appeared overhead in Tokyo. And predictably, this giant spaceship appearing caused a mass panic across the world. That first day, there appeared to be smaller ships that detached from the main mothership that tried to land on the planet, but they quickly crashed into the towers of Tokyo and caused mass destruction. On top of all this chaos, the US military, which always has a tendency to do whatever it wants without much warning or care what the Japanese government has to say, dropped a tactical nuke on the mothership. Now, most of the area below it had already been evacuated, but they still dropped the nuke on top of a spaceship that was hovering over a residential area, causing even further destruction and a lot of contamination for the area around it. There's contamination as well at a lot of the crash sites, which the Japanese government says are not contaminations you really have to worry about. They don't seem to have any adverse reactions, but a lot of people don't really buy that. And all of this chaos, Kodore's father goes missing. They never find the body, so they presume that he's dead, and they have to move on without him. In those 3 years since, her mother has become very conspiracy-minded and found a new boyfriend, trying to move on with her life while still really obsessed with a lot of the online conspiracies that are popping up, and there are a number of online conspiracies. This manga started back in 2014, but it feels so very 2020. Not to say that paranoia or fake news were any kind of new innovation, but to see the level of the destabilization that a lot of this news causes really evokes a lot of that, to me at least, as an American. In this environment with this massive spaceship just hovering over the city, not really doing anything past that first day, everyone just tries to move on with their normal life. Kodore and Oran, in their last year of high school, excited to actually move on with their lives and start to become adults. They're not without their flaws as characters. Oran is a bit of a chinibio and a very degenerate gamer, while Kodore has a bit of a crush on her high school teacher who is kind of receptive to that, and we're not going to get into all of that, but
certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck 'em up.
the series is kind of a slice of life story. A lot of people have described it like that, and I struggle to agree with that, but on the face of it, that's not entirely wrong. A lot of the series is based on Kodode and Oran's experiences day to day, growing and changing with this crumbling world that they're dealing with. One of the things I really love about Dead Demons is it feels like it really understands what society is like. It's very politically minded, and not just because Oran goes on frequent kind of nihilistic teenager rants against capitalism, but also because it really understands a lot of the ways that people react to the end of the world, or giant catastrophes in some sort of way. One of those ways is through a lot of conspiracies, as I mentioned earlier, but another one of those ways is through radicalization, either radicalization for or against the actual destruction of the mothership and the rumored invaders that exist. Now, there are smaller ships that come off of the mothership every now and then, very small ships that are a little bit bigger than a normal car. And there's rampant rumors online of invaders, or the aliens that are living on that ship, that are a little bit bigger than children and look like they're in like one of those old 19th century, 18th century diving helmets. And with these rumored invaders, there's a number of people who want to make peace with them, try to communicate with them, figure out what they want, and find a way for them to work together. While conversely, there's a radical hate group out there that wants to eradicate every invader that it can find. And these people actually really represent a lot of the alt-right as it exists in America. I'm sure there's a lot of actual political trends in Japan that this is referring to, but as an American, I don't really understand that as well, or have as much of a familiarity with that, so I have to pull on something that is familiar with me and talk about how this is very reminiscent of the alt-right in the United States. And really, it's a lot like other extremist fascist movements that have existed previously, with a lot of young people with anger and resentment using it to pick on people who are far weaker and unable to really defend themselves. And the display of this brutality is very explicit. This is a show that, from the scenes that you may have seen here, it looks very cute. It kind of reminds me of a child anime. Like, the character designs are all over the place and goofy and weird, and it's a series that character designs don't really lend itself to being a mature drama series like it really is. It kind of disarms you by making it look like a more childlike series with goofier, ridiculous designs. Like, you look at this guy's head, tell me this is from a serious anime. The series is based on the stories of Kodode and Oran, but it also gives you a lot of perspectives of these protesters, of these hate groups, of the government itself, and the conspiracy and things that they're hiding from people, and their own plans of how to deal with the invaders, their arguments and disagreements with the US government, while also giving you perspectives of a lot of different people in Kodode's and Oran's friend group. I also love how you feel a lot of progression in this series as time goes on, of them becoming college students, of them growing, learning, and becoming more independent. There are actually so many cool things about this series that I love so much, and I'm not going to get into a lot of details on that because I don't want to spoil that for you. But one of the things I'm going to say is, one, beautifully animated. This was animated by Production Plus H, and they did a great job adapting this series into animation and making it all work together. The writing for this series is also immaculate, and you have to give a lot of credit for that back to Inio Asano, the creator of the original manga, of course. But I also do think that Reiko Yoshida, who did the actual script for the series, did an excellent job composing this series and translating it into an anime. There is one major controversy among manga readers and people who watch the series, which is that this is an 18-episode anime, but the first episode is called Episode 0. And Episode 0 isn't really structured as it is in the manga, from what I gather. If you want to just go with things the way it occurred in the manga, you would skip Episode 0 and just start with Episode 1, watch Episode 1 through 16, then watch Episode 0, and then watch Episode 17 to give you the full 18 episodes, and to tell it in the order that is more based on what the manga wanted to do. But Reiko Yoshida, she actually composed this series instead to have Episode 0 be at the beginning, and then as you go on, you fill in a lot of the information that you got from Episode 0, and it gives you a very different perspective on the series itself. I personally, since I just started watching this series on Crunchyroll, I started with episode 0 and I didn't know there was a problem with that, and I didn't have any issue with this at all. I thought it was a really good setup for the series, though I can see that if you just want to go into something blind and you don't want to have any kind of idea where the series is going to go, then skip episode 0, save it for after episode 16, and just watch it 1 through 16, 0, then 17. Personally, I have no issue with the format they chose. I actually like the way that episode 0 starts and the way that it leads into the series. I feel like there's kind of a Nolan-esque quality where everything's told a little bit out of order, and you have these characters and situations that are kind of like knots that you're slowly untying and understanding as you go through the series. There's a few parts of like that in the series itself as well, where you have things that aren't really told in sequential order, that are all kind of put together and you figure things out as you go along. So while I personally recommend broadcast order, I at least want to let you know about what this whole conversation is and give you the opportunity to choose for yourself how you're going to watch it. But Reiko Yoshida is an incredible writer. They wrote the script for the film that KyoAni did for A Silent Voice, and I love that adaptation. I think they did an excellent job with that. And they also wrote the first 3 Digimon movies that became Digimon the movie in America. They've done a lot of other things, so the co-creator of Tokyo Mew Mew. They're an incredible writer, and I trust their decisions. I think you should just follow what they do. But again, giving you more information, letting you make your own choices. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, the thing that's really refreshing about Dead Demons is it feels like it has a lot to say about the world in general. So much anime out there feels so escapist, feels like it's trying to avoid talking about the real issues that are occurring both in the world itself and in Japan in specific, and this series feels like it's trying to tackle that head on. I really want to praise again the idea of this post-apocalypse, that the world itself 3 years after a giant spaceship appears above the city of Tokyo isn't really completely falling apart, but it's slowly decaying, it's crumbling, which is the way a lot of societies collapse. They don't just collapse all at once, they slowly crumble and crumble and crumble over time, weighing themselves with violence and conspiracy and different kinds of factions forming that slowly bring it all down. I think that's really fascinating, and I love the maturity that the story takes in trying to understand how societies function, instead of a lot of other anime out there that feel a little more juvenile about how they approach post-apocalypse, that more just try to reflect a Mad Max movie. And Mad Max actually is a good example of society crumbling if you look at the movies 1 through 3, but we're not getting into a Mad Max discussion here. It's nice to see a series showing how people have to just live through major events going on around you. Again, even though this series started in 2014, it feels really relevant for, you know, what happened in COVID, right? Where we're all just kind of living our daily lives, trying to get through the day, even though there's a massive pandemic happening, where your entire world has changed, but also it stays the same in a lot of ways. It's really good at displaying how humans just try to adapt to all the situations that are going on around them. And also, again, politically, it's very, very relevant. Very, very relevant to today, especially when you think about the role the invaders play in this whole story. Hopefully through this video, I've made it clear that this is an anime you need to check out. This is my anime of the season. Machine is a close second. I love Machine a lot. I'm not gonna do a video on it because I don't really have a need to, but Dead Demons Dededede Destruction is the anime of the season. I love this series, and it's probably one of the anime of the year. You need to check this out. If you love sci-fi in any way, shape, or form, check this series out. You will love it. If you want a slice of life series that's a little bit fucked up, then you should check this out as well. I think Madoka Magica fans actually would get a lot out of this. There's kind of a similar vibe there. Their heads kind of look similar to the Madoka Magica characters if you look at it here. There's this kind of cuteness vibe that's going on again, but there's this darkness that's actually very present throughout the series that I think is very interesting. 18 episodes, it's all available on Crunchyroll. It's all dubbed as well if you want to watch it dubbed. So like if that helps you get into the series easier, it's all dubbed right now, so it's really easy to watch no matter what. I mean, the sub is great, the dub is great. Just go check this series out. It's unlike a lot of anime that I've seen in a very long time. It's been so long since I've seen such a really fascinating, interesting, curious series that tries to tackle bigger societal issues or questions while also being relatable, funny, and grounded. It's very grounded. So check this series out. I really recommend it if you couldn't tell. And subscribe if you want to see more videos similar to this. Comment your own opinions on the anime, what you thought of it, or maybe if you had heard about this at all, and if it sounds interesting to you. Like this video if you like it. Again, subscribe for more videos like this. I have a whole bunch more videos that I'm going to be making soon. And I hope you have a great day, a great night, or whatever it is you're having. And stay rad.
My head hurts. I'm gonna go lie down.